into our first game of the day. Here we go. We've got the plane up and in the air. Everything is going off. It's going to be starting up around prison and ending up just off to the middle of the map towards the north. Okay. Really, unless you're like an eastern team like Impala, it's going to be a little bit rough for you, but everything else should be fine.
Yeah, it's not the best for eastern teams, but it's Miramar. You can still kind of basically access everywhere for the most part. Unless you're a Puerto Paradiso or Impala team, you really shouldn't be too worried about it. But I might spy with my little eye, if I'm being correct in this, 2 teams in Picado. I think we saw Snow Patrol and 64 Up contest each other every single game in Picado yesterday, and they're still at it. They're not stopping. The cat fight continues.
I love it. This is the way we want to see Miramar play out. Right now in North America, Picado is kind of settled, so seeing it get a little bit interesting, especially in the early parts of the game, is always nice to talk about. But Picado can technically support 2 different teams. First circle is going to pop, and it's going to be right around Picado. I mean, really, its power grid is about due up in center. So we talked about the fact that we had mean early circles yesterday. Well, it does not seem like it's going to start that way today.
Yeah, actually, if you want the polar opposite of a Game 1 military island circle on Erangel, it's a Game 1 center circle on Miramar. These are the slowest beginnings, which I think a number of teams are going to really appreciate, because it means they don't have to really worry too much about their rotations. They can just loot up, move in, and then, have a more regular pacing to the game. They don't have to go guns blazing right at the start, unless, of course, you're 64 Up in Snow Patrol. You're going to want to go guns blazing right now. Keep in mind, neither of these teams have had spectacular Miramar games, and I do wonder how much of that is because they're constantly having to use up utility, use up resources in the early game because of this very situation.
Well, we do have a couple of small things I want to point out while we are looking at Snow Patrol, looking back over towards 64 Up in Picado. Really, most of our teams are already inside the safe zone. Oh, hey, I think Sociopath should be able to make it over there just fine. Like it, take out the tires, deny the utility. Sometimes we see people make a run for that car, but I think that they're aware of the positioning around them, opting to not do it. But what I was alluding to just a second ago is that really all teams except for 4 are inside this first circle just based off of drop path and where they wanted to loot at. So first rotations shouldn't be too crazy. I do have my eye on Dodge, though, because apparently Monty decided he wanted to dodge dropping with his friends. And is all the way up on the northern part of the map while everybody else is playing around Power Grid.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be the bearer of cynical news and assume that that's because of a connection issue. Unfortunately, I did see that at the very beginning. That's
does
really
tend
the
to
only
happen that way.
for it.
But we'll see if they can maybe regroup. Rarity had themselves a pretty good day, all things considered, but looks like Monty is making his way back down towards the south. He only has to go through potentially 4 to 5 teams to make it up with his friends.
You see,
so it is going to be a long voyage for him.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to push back with your previous statement, Matt. You say that they had a pretty good day. They're currently sitting in 9th place, and while they might have started off well, their first 2 rounds especially, getting them a lot of points, their Miramar games have not been good. They have a total of 3 points from the Miramar games yesterday, and all came from kills in the final game. So actually having that start on this map is. They're going to have to pick it up, and so Monty having to drive all the way back to his teammates could make it a bad situation even worse.
I'll 100% agree with you. I remembered the early start, those first couple of games where they picked that up, and I completely slipped in my mind that they slid down there. So you're 100% right on that one, Cam. I'll give that one to you, and thank you for correcting me as we went. So yeah, Rarity has to be careful with this one as they make their way through. 605, making a little bit of a rotation as they make their way down as well. And this could be kind of a factor as we see, specifically with Power Grid being the center of the circle. We've got the mountainside that's just towards the east and the south of that position. That is a very problematic place to deal with. It's very hard to rotate through. So a lot of these rotations could take place back over towards the west or towards the north, causing these own independent funnel points where teams are going to bump into each other and I don't know. Okay, it looks like they've managed to get into position just fine. So 3 of the members of Dodge already holding down a nice defensive point inside of Power Grid, waiting for 605 to see if they want to make their way up there.
Yeah, and it's actually really good to take Power Grid so early. But right now, we're looking at one eye open, and Dawn, actually, you see them rotating around a little bit. And Dawn was one of the teams that, honestly, actually, we probably should have been criticizing more than we did. They dominated the qualification lobby coming into this event, and they have such big names on the roster, names that you expect to be at least not in 14th. I can tell you that much.
That's an
and part
average?
of it's got to be because their lack of really macro abilities.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter how good a team.
We played 6 games yesterday. Dawn is averaging a little bit more than 2 points per game.
Yeah.
That is not a good place to be, especially with that roster that it's looking at. I know that Hypoc was talking about the fact that they could have a big game and pop off, and that's true. Really, remember, we're only looking for the top 8. So a top 8 finish is a success for teams because that will allow you to move on to phase number 2 for the Continental Series. But I think that being down in this position, nobody was considering Dawn to be in this spot, and especially an average of 2 points per game is absurd to me. It blew my mind once I saw this at the end of the day.
Well, what I will say, though, is that their, I don't want to say inability, but failure of execution of good macro yesterday, that this situation right now with the center Miramar circle and the slower timings because of that, I hope will help them out. That they're not going to be forced to take some wild, wacky rotations because of hard shifts and such. They can just slowly get themselves in a circle and put themselves in a position that they can just take a fight as it is. And yes, Monty fortunately is able to group up. It happened. There wasn't anything to cut him off, to stop him from grouping up with his teammates.
I mean, he still did have to roll by about 3 or 4 teams, but I mean, it is Miramar as well. So there's trenches, ways you can get through there. If anything, there was just a potential risk of him going down, so good on him to be able to play that properly. Meanwhile, it looks like Snow Patrol has to keep an eye on what's going on around them as they have some third-party shots coming after him, and they might not be noticing how close that Soup is moving into this position.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I don't actually think they got into a fight with 64 up and Picado decided just to move up to this location, which I think was a good idea considering this circle. But as you mentioned, 6 feet under, got the SF, I almost said 64 under. 6 feet under, being dangerously close, and especially as you mentioned, the distraction of the rest of the team to allow Soup to continue on this wide flank. I'm curious to see how that might end up against Snow Patrol, taking some tires out. The Dean, good start, but I think Soup was spotted. I think he was spotted.
Here's the problem with it. Remember, Snow Patrol was playing back around Picado. They moved up towards the north. They took over this position. They have to contend with Soup's position. But 64 up is still moving back up behind Snow Patrol. If Snow Patrol is not careful, they're going to find themselves in a pincered position. Luckily, Soup is retreating from this point, moving back down towards 6 feet under. And thank you, 6 feet under, for playing in Graveyard because, gosh, oddly fitting. So 64 up now has themselves a high ground point, and Snow Patrol.
They're not that bad, Matt.
6 feet under playing in a graveyard. That's what 6 feet under.
I know.
I thought it was a good joke. That one was actually decent, unlike my Miramar Amigos.
No. See, the problem with the Amigos one is it should have been Miramigos.
Miramigos. Yeah, but I was thinking about going with that one.
I don't even have children, Matt. How am I better than this? Better at you than this?
It's my wife's job to make the dad jokes. She owns the pants in the family on that one.
That's true. Feminism. Equal roles in the family right now.
She just does puns better than I am. What can I say, man? All right. Well, you can see there's a couple of teams rolling around. Carnage is moving back behind 6 feet under right now. A lot of our action that we're looking around in this position is kind of slowing down. Meanwhile, back over towards the west, it's getting a little bit more feisty. New Circle's going to pop in just a second. That's really going to dictate if people decide to commit to any of these fights at this point. So, where are we going, Cam?
Ooh, okay. Interesting hard shift. This is great for Rarity, and I already know the compound that they're going to. It's great to see a hardship because it usually means it forces fights. Unfortunately, it's going to one of the positions that we have established yesterday we really don't like. This is going to end up on what I believe it was, I forget who called it yesterday, but the STK feed compound. It's the compound that is north of Power Grid. It's southwest of the water treatment plant. That is just a wide plateau around it. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully it'll shift somewhere else, but Rarity have a great opportunity to grab that compound first, and so hopefully they can turn this into a good game for themselves.
Yeah, we got a lot of San Martin, Hacienda, Power Grid still in play. A little bit of that hillside we were talking about a second ago. That's why a lot of people are rotating either back around towards the west or towards the east. A couple of these teams look like they might be contemplating dropping into San Martin itself, which isn't the worst thing, but that could be very problematic if they have to leave this point, because once you commit to San Martin, you're going to probably lose your vehicles. People are going to take long-range pot shots, take out your tires, and then you're going to have to leave this area, which does have a couple of footpaths to get out, but also leads directly into very wide open fields and on a lot of these different angles, and you're going to find yourself in some troubling positions.
Saw Dawn there trying to shoot at one eye open and actually exposed as well, trying to shoot at a rotating team, the red zones. Tumas gets it down, and finishes that kill without even taking a breath. He does not want that one stolen. Fortunately, Red Zones are able to find a compound to hold up in, and maybe they can cut off Exposed rotations. But I think Exposed have an easy path out of this right now. Red Zone, they're just hanging out inside the circle.
Yeah, it looks like Exposed was contemplating going for that complex, was scouting it out a little bit more, and just a firmer commitment comes in is going to allow them to run in, take that spot. But the problem with Exposed positioning is with this movement down into this point. Tomas is back behind this, but he has to be careful because he does have Clueless off by him. So we're kind of running a 3-1 split. Meanwhile, on the other part of this, you can see Calm was holding down this position. Carnage just rolls in. Good grenade coming up is going to take down Ripper, but everybody from Calm wants nothing to do with this, and Nan is in a little bit of trouble here.
I mean, Carnage is a team that we wait to see them really go aggressive and pop off. They don't need placement points. It's all about the kill points. But Calm Card landing on the grenade is going to stall that push while they're waiting for Ripper to crawl inside the building so they can get the revive. Tony V, though, finds the angle. Endland goes a little too out of his own way, and that's an immediate kill as well. Not even giving Calm Card the opportunity for the revive. You can see why he's so ugly, and Zovrin just rotating away from that. They want nothing to do with Duel. They want nothing to do with Carnage. They're just going to hold down this building.
So while all this is going on, we have a 2-2 split that's coming up from Rarity, pretty close to the center of the circle. Two different teams that have committed to San Martin. Duel, who's playing in Hacienda. Just south of that, we're going to see 6 Feet Under making their play. And a lot of teams playing around Edge. Whenever we were talking about Dawn earlier, one of the things that we mentioned is the fact that the macro play just feels a little bit weird. Well, they're very much opting into playing on Edge and seeing if they can catch any kills, while almost everybody else is opting into a hard-centered strategy. Usually it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, some teams play Edge, some teams play center. When you have almost everybody else committing to center, suddenly if you're playing Edge and the circle doesn't favor you, you're screwed. You have to walk through a death trap of just team upon team, and there's nowhere to go, and it feels like you're always chasing the circle. If we see another circle pop away from Dawn, it's just going to be harder for them to find some type of path in. And yeah, look, it's going to go right over to San Martin. If you're Dawn, where do you go now? Almost every path that you could take to get into the circle is already going to be taken ahead of you.
Okay. Yes, it's not the hardest of shifts, but it's a hard shift. It's a medium shift. Let's call it that. And it is going towards the same plateau we've seen it finish on time and time again. What I do want to wonder, though, is why did Rarity not take that compound and allow that special endgame win compound and allow Red Zones to get it? That could have been a free second place at bare minimum. The only time we've seen a team in that compound not win was Atheris yesterday. That's just because it ended up in the field just below them, and Dodge were able to sort of stop them from retreating from it. But that's still a strong... My point is that's an incredibly strong compound.
I mean, it's referred to as one of the God compounds for a reason. It just has beautiful sight lines on everything that's going on. Snow Patrol is still making their migration up slowly and steadily, taking a couple of steps up to the north. Looks like they're just going to get right on Edge and maybe stop from this point. Still consisting around, we're 64 up. These guys just cannot separate away from each other just due to the amount of teams that are just... It's just so many teams just a little bit past where they're staying at, and they know it's going to be deadly. One quick update that I wanted to put out, because I know a lot of people are keeping their eye on our number 1 team right now. That's going to be Orion. They've been taking a lot of blue damage in no rush, and while I've been picking on Dawn for being a slow rotator and having a lot of trouble trying to navigate the circle, Orion is just now making it inside this new safe zone. So Dawn does manage to find themselves a spot right on the edge, but it's still just a cascading situation for them. If the circle does not come back to Dawn's location, this is just going to get harder and harder for them.
It'll only get harder for them if they can't win their gunfights. And they're actually able to put, today, this game at least, this opening game, they're able to put themselves in a position despite, while, yes, being on the edge, of a place that I'm more confident in them being able to fight out of. The Erangel games yesterday are very hard to sort of analyze because of how weird all three of them were in their own reasons. And the Miramar games, there was a lot of fighting on the edge, and there was a lot of spread kills in them as well. But Dawn, in the position that they just took this time around, Game 1 on Miramar, it gives me more confidence in their ability to play through the mid-game and the end-game, which does seem to be where they are hedging their bets on where they're going to get most of the points from.
Well, you can see the 2-2 split coming up from Rarity. It's pretty centered up. They do have a lot of control. While they did pass on that God complex, handed that over towards Exposed, we do have a little bit of a problem. If somebody decides to crash their complex, that's going to be problematic. Is with this split, they can provide a little bit of cover towards each other, but Orion decides to come in right along the edge, and see, this is what starts to happen if you find yourself too far out there. This was our number 1 team moving in. We were talking them up about a lot of stuff. But whenever you just are constantly chasing the circle, and I feel like something went awry for them much earlier in the game. But 5 seconds before our new circle pops, Rarity's still trying to get a little bit of feel for what's happening. Which way are we going to go? Going to get another hard shift? And yes, we are. It's going to move itself back over next to water treatment plant. So everybody around San Martin, Hacienda, everybody playing along that hillside's got to figure out where the hell do we go next, as it's those wide open fields that we were talking about that we love so much, Cam.
Yeah, oh god, I'm such a fan of this spot. I love it. It's great. So Rarity here, you mentioned how if someone tried to crash them, it would have been difficult. That's why they're grouping up, and they're not going to give anyone the opportunity because, as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of pressure from the south, but that gives a good opportunity for teams like Duel, teams like Dodge, who are there kind of just on the south edge, to hold out any of the transitioning teams. And I do want to point out, Duel in 3rd place. We talked about them yesterday, how they struggled in the first couple of games, and it wasn't until the final game that we really saw them deliver on the promise that their roster gave us. They got a bunch of transitioning kills on all the Miramar games, and so I hope to see them be able to continue on that.
One eye open!
Oh, that's a crash if I've seen one.
That is huge. Monhardy trying to get around the outside of this. 2 people already down, trying to get the back flank onto this. Gets a little bit of damage onto Zobrin, but can't get much out of it. He's just going to go nice spray back over towards it. 1 up and nowhere near the rest of the team. So I like the commitment to the crash, but it's a little bit of a problem. And there you go. Last one's going to get spotted out. Dubbers goes down, but look, Duel now making the run back over next to Snow Patrol. Mitchie Boy decided he wanted to go after it. Cherry said no. Decided to take him down off this play. So now Sneak Attack hiding around the corner, trying to see if maybe he can catch a couple of these members from Duel. Smokes are coming out. Duel should spot this, but I like the throw that down, try to reposition off of it, take this time, get the meds back up. But you can see throwables are starting to come out. Have to be very careful. If one of these connects, lands right on top of Sneak Attack, he is done for, but none of them do connect. So Crawfresh might be able to provide a little bit of support, and maybe Sneak Attack can pop off something back behind this.
Ooh, flash has come out, but a good frag. Oh, it bounces away. Not the best breakaway game player, unfortunately, but that gives Sneak Attack still some surviving time. And how long does Duel want to commit to this? It's just 1 point, but it's also their flank. And look at 64 up, getting closer and closer to the circle. If Duel aren't prepared for a sneak like this, it could be a little rough, but here comes the push. Sneak Attack finds 1, tries to get 2, unfortunately isn't going to be able to do it. Luckily, he's not the last member of Snow Patrol. They do still have 1 up and can maybe climb for placements, but it's not a great start for them.
And Duel is so lucky they managed to take that out. You can see Lampalot's, his job's kind of hold back 64 up right now. And Cherry is also providing a little bit of assistance. Now they can focus in on the aggressors that are moving into their territory. Duel still playing right along the edge. So they do have control over this spot, but now they've kind of put Lampalot out onto an island. So curious if they opt into staying in this spot, if they're going to try to use a little bit of a sneaky play to creep back over there. But Soup's still playing on the outside of this, and this could turn into a 3-way fight very quickly if Duel is not careful.
Just wondering right now how these teams are going to be really focus in on this. The 64 up want to go aggressive onto Duel. There's 20 seconds left until the circle closes, though. So I imagine that they're just going to wait to see where their shift goes, and that's what everyone's going to be doing, despite Soup, again, going on a flank, going on an aggressive push. But he's waiting. He's at least waiting for the next circle, for the game plan to be fully executed or pulled back from.
Everybody's kind of settled into their spots. Let's see where our next circle is going to take us. Wouldn't be surprised if it's around Rarity, maybe Calm. Yep. Going to push back over in that direction. So now a lot of our fields going to go away, be replaced with hillsides where people can potentially play down at. 605 making a push back over next to Carnage. They have a 1v1 essentially that's being set up just towards the northern part of the safe zone. You can see it's going to play off. Zragod, he's had himself a powerful hand, been taking down a lot of players as they made their way into his sights. Going to spot out one of them. Going to be Zen, very aware. It's kind of a God v God situation. Look at this. We got Zragod versus Zen God. Who's going to end up being the dominant deity of PUBG for the days? Looks like 605 sending in a couple more reinforcements, but Zray has himself a sneaky little angle and a little bit of support from his team. I don't think that we're going to see 605 get too aggressive on this until the reinforcements arrive.
Yeah, and they got to come to this position anyway, strictly because it's, well, inside the circle. But, oh, back dub, drops Plush God. This is what I was waiting for. I actually like this from Carnage, and Zray finds an angle onto another rotating player. Poe's way aggressive.
Gonna get a couple of shots dropped back over towards him, so Zray's gonna go down. I like the idea behind the play, but it just came at the worst time. So now that's an easy kill going back over towards 605. On the other side of this, you can see 64 up Duel still caught up into a fight. Suit not in real position to do a lot, but long-range shots are going to be harassing both of these teams. Lamplot's trying to get around to the outside of it. As you can see, lots of shots coming out from Broke status. Hoshi is down right now. Molotovs galore around this positioning, and Sociopath doesn't have the cleanest sight for this, but let's go back over towards this Carnage fight. A couple of grenades coming in. This is the reason I like Carnage. You kill our friend, that's it. We're coming after you. We don't care if we don't make it to late game. We just want to kill as many of you as humanly possible. MacDub in a beautiful back position. Plush God fighting himself all by his lonesome now and trying to figure out, okay, how do I survive through this? Because he's not even inside the safe zone yet.
Yeah, this was an aggressive maneuver by Carnage, and I love it. They saw the advantage that they had once they got the first couple of knocks, and they just full pushed onto it. They, in a way, gave up an even stronger position to clear their backside. MacDub with the two-seater that got him to that high ground position. Coming back in, they're going to clear the entire gas station. They don't know that Plush God, or at least they're not 100% certain that Plush God is not in the gas station, which means that he could find an opportunity. But I can't imagine that he'll get away with it for too long.
Well, we've got another contender that's coming in here. It's going to be Dawn that was trying to make a little bit of an aggressive play, but they're going to get spotted out, taken down into 12th. Plush God trying to position himself, trying to go for the play. Spots out one. He is showing a little bit of trigger discipline with it. The blue's going to come in right as he takes his shot. The timing is terrible on that. Plush is going to take a ton of damage. There we go. 605 gets eliminated, so Carnage Gaming gets control of that position. Knows they already have another safe spot because that's where they were originally playing. New Circle's going to pop. Not going to be at their old position, but it's going to go back down to Rarity while there's a big fight happening right on the edge between Clueless and, I believe, Dodge.
Listen, I take back everything I said about Rarity and their compound choice. They apparently know significantly more than I do. That's why that happened. Woo! Duel, in the meantime, wiping the entirety of 64 up. If you remember, that's not the only threat that they have on their front doorstep, but here on the west side, Rarity have threats of their own. Aferis getting up close and personal, as well as Clueless and the remainder of Dodge just off on the side.
This is a little bit of a failure from Rarity. They had control over this complex. Letting somebody get that close to them, being that tunnel vision on other fights that are happening, could be a problem. You can see Rarity is still going after Dodge at this point, but they're starting to lose a little bit of their foothold. They do manage to turn around and get a lot of damage back over to Atheris, but Atheris does get up on top of this. Rarity's got to be careful as they're starting to lose a couple of members. It's just going to be Lister up on top, spots one. Looking to see if maybe he can get a sneaky angle back over towards this. Gonna see him as they come up the stairs, spray back and forth between the two of them, and just barely Settle walks away with that one. But Rarity sitting on 7 kills, gonna get the res back over towards Shepard, but that was a pretty big cost as it looks like Calm off in the distance might be thinking about making a play back towards this position.
It's only one member of Calm currently right now. Here on the east, the fight between Duel and SFU. Well, Duel had a good advantage against 64 up, but it's gone totally away from them now. It's just Cherry. Now in a 1v1 because he gets the knock. He's going to secure the kill. Can't even do that before Skasks finds him and able to get the revive just in the last couple of seconds. So Duel do go down in 7th place. But again, pick up a good number of kills. Are we seeing Duel finally come into their own? Finally.
Those kills are going to be the big factor for it. Carnage being a little bit more aggressive. Well, I wouldn't say a little bit more aggressive. They're always aggressive. Running back down the hillside. They don't care that people are shooting at them. They know the fact that somebody's probably playing off this point. They've got to be careful. Doing a little bit of a peak battle between these walls right now. I like the reposition coming out from this. Calm trying to get a little bit sneaky off on one side of it, assuming the fact that they're going to be playing next to the vehicles, but Zovran has a read on what's happening. Gonna come up right back behind Ripper, get a quick down and flush. Gonna go for the reload as well because he saw that there were 2 playing off of this position. Now Maji's got to figure out how he's gonna handle it. MacDub's gonna go down as well. Zovran's just putting in work and decimating Carnage right now. Maji's got the beat back around for it. Finally gets the damage onto him. Should be able to get the flush. Remember, the other member of Calm was pretty close near the center of the circle, so Maji gonna have a second for breathing room as it's starting to get very settled up around the edges of the circle as all of these teams are just getting slowly and steadily torn apart. 6 teams alive, 10 people all together in this circle.
Zovran, he almost played Carnage. When Maji thought that he was going to back off because of his teammate's arrival, that's why he was wrapping around the hay bales. No, Zovran just went aggressive, took the 1v1 against the arriving teammate. It was I have to guess that it was a fat finger spacebar that caused Zovran to jump and give Maji the opportunity. So, an unfortunate mechanical mistake there is what I'm going to assume.
He might have been jumping to try to get a little bit of vision. We see that happen every once in a while.
Not in that
also
situation.
Is a possible.
I don't. No. I don't believe
we got We've got Clueless that's playing around the outside of this. They've got themselves a shack, but is no longer inside the safe zone. They have a couple of vehicles, but you can see every single time they try to hop into them, they can't go anywhere. We have Rarity's Complex still in play. East Coast Red Zones are going to go down in our 6th place position. Got a lot of solos, a lot of duos just continuing everything that we've got going on right now. So curious to see how Clueless, who has 3 members up right now, they technically are the healthiest team, but they do not have the safe circle. So now they have to figure out how are they going to make it through Rarity's position as there's somebody beat it in. Shepard's just waiting for somebody to hop into a vehicle and get out of that shack.
Yeah, I wonder how many smokes Clueless have. I have to guess 0. I saw that there was 0 on Nitrogen, and I'm not seeing any more on the field, which is, okay, there's a couple that's thrown out, but it's only going to go so far, and can't even use that to get in with the vehicles, because 20 FPS does go down to Shepard.
They have a little bit of terrain to work with. Clueless trying to creep their way forward. They have to be careful because the remaining member from Calm still hanging off to the side of this. 6 feet under has been hearing everything that's been happening, is trying to opt into the opposite side of the circle from Rarity, which might put them around Maji's path. So, Rarity has complete control over their complex at the direct time, but they have to be careful given the amount of people that could be creeping up and how many buildings are inside of this complex. That's why you see them throwing out their grenades, trying to make sure that they don't let anybody aggress into their territory again. Nitrogen starting to move a little bit closer next to the last member for Calm, but looks like he might have himself a little bit of a path. Going to use that little bit of a hill. Maji does get spotted out. That drops us down to 4. Calm goes for a little bit of a spray back behind Nitrogen. Gets a little bit of damage. Going to throw out the Molotov. Not going to be close enough, though. So return flashbang. Nitrogen's just saying, stop looking at me. I just want to go meet up with my teammate. Going to try to rotate back over next to Patrick. So now it's just about Rarity and their control. And do they have the sight lines needed to keep everybody away from them? And I don't know if they can do it with just 2.
Listen, they couldn't even keep Atheris away from them when they had 4. So I don't think it's going to work out when they only have 2. You see how close Clueless is able to get. And the circle, it's a medium shift down towards the south. And despite Rarity having a compound, it's only an edge of it in this next circle. And 6 feet under have basically full advantage right now. The only thing that they don't have is the high ground. But when everyone else is just going to have a little bit of a slap fight in the west before facing them as the final boss, they're not too upset about it. They can just set up their crossfire, set up their sight lines, and just wait for anyone to walk into the meat grinder.
Taking those earlier fights, opting and playing in the hills instead is going to reward them as the circle does shift their direction. And now, all their enemies are going to be fighting right next to each other, Clueless, making a little bit more of an aggressive play back into Rarity's complex. But that just means that we're going to have 2 duos that could end up facing off against each other, which is going to play in 6 feet under's favor. Really, the last remaining member from Calm also playing around this point is just going to make it more problematic as all of these teams have to figure out how to win their fight, disengage from it, and Shepard has himself a nice close-range weapon to work with. It's just a matter of, is he going to have the angle to defend it? As no, Nitrogen's going to creep up in there. Patrick's still playing off in the position, doing a little bit of a walkabout, but it looks like Nitrogen's going to opt into playing the high point on this. That's going to give him a lot more vision, and he's going to go right by Rarity. I love it.
I absolutely love it. So you guys don't want to fight with us? Well, I guess we're not going to fight.
Well, okay, with positioning coming out, you can see 6 feet under is playing back behind this, and I believe that you can see that there's a little bit of a spectator bug that's going on right now, but Nitrogen's still crawling around on the top of it. Shepard's doing a little bit of a move. Almost everybody else is kind of playing this pretty safe. You can see 6 feet under, they have the low point on that hillside, so they have the easiest path to maneuver and everything that's going on. Blue's going to take down Patrick as we make our way through here. And so with this, Rarity's sitting on 8 kills. They've been pumping out a lot of damage, but now it feels like they're wrestling with PUBG itself and have to be very, very careful as they have somebody that's directly above them. And while all this is going on, 6 feet under is just slow creeping their way towards the center of the circle. Finally, Rarity's going to be able to move their way out of this position, and Nitrogen's high ground going to be a little bit more problematic. If that grenade hits, that is going to be huge. Tosses it all the way up, going to bounce just a little bit back behind him. But my God, I wanted that to hit so bad. Nitrogen has to be careful in how he plays this out because he's going to have to jump down into the waiting arms of Rarity. Nitrogen steps around, tries to get the spray. A little bit of damage does go back over to Rarity, but now they have the path to look back down the hillside. They've got the wall to work with. Calm hears everything that's going on. Hasn't been in a big rush, but it looks like 6 feet under already has a beat on it. They're looking directly at his position. So 6 feet under has one person looking at each one of the remaining teams.
Well, you say looking at them. They are on the low ground. A couple grenades do go out, bounce into the smoke. A good zoning maneuver attempt by 6 feet under and stacks the spray. Finds why so ugly. That guarantees Rarity at least second place, and they put themselves into 2v2. But again, the positional advantage and the flank crossfire that 6 feet under have are going to work in their favor. Infamous drops Shepard.
Subtle making his way down to the low ground, dropped a whole bunch of smokes, has the angle to work with. The problem with it is too many members of 6 Feet Under are still up. They played it off of 2 different angles, and that's going to be 7 kills and a victory for 6 Feet Under.